Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Red Devils TV, the realist channel on YouTube. Now, we've got an interesting show tonight. It's the Man United fan show debates, whatever you want to call it. But if you've clicked on the thumbnail, you've clicked on it for a specific reason, and that is Erik Ten Hag in or out. I'm going to take off my glasses because that ring light is doing my head in. But anyway, obviously, like we said, Erik Ten Hag in or out, that's the simple question. So many rumours going out about Ten Hag replacements, people who are Erik Ten Hag in or out. The fan base is completely divided once again, and it's very frustrating for a fan like me because, you know, we've had so many years under the Glazers. Now this with Erik Ten Hag. Why? When does it end? I'm joined tonight as well by Benjamin, who has been a regular of this channel when it comes to making content with myself. He's a great chap. Great chap? What am I talking about? I'm from London or something. Jesus Christ. But no. But no, at the end of the day, with Ben, obviously he's regular on the channel when it comes to making content. Ben, thank you for joining me this evening. What are your thoughts on Erik Ten Hag in or out?
I mean, it's a divisive topic. It's one that, as you said, it's a pain that we're always having to have these sort of conversations of, do you want this person in? Do you want this person in? We have it all the time. We seem to just go from one debate to the next one. And it was previously, you have the Sancho, do you want him to stay? Do you want him to go? You've had various other situations. And it seems that after the whole takeover situation is done, so no longer debating, do we want Qatar or do you want Sir Jim? We found a whole new thing to discuss and to divide about. And I think we're both in the same. We want Ten Hag to stay camp, or at least be given an opportunity to prove himself to be worthy of staying.
Yeah, you're spot on there. I mean, obviously, it is a Ten Hag fan debate show, but unfortunately, we couldn't get enough fans on tonight who were Ten Hag out. So that means automatically Ten Hag deserves to stay. So that's everyone's opinion who decides Ten Hag out. They're cancelled right now.
That's the show done. We've decided he's staying.
Let's end it now. Thank you for everyone for watching.
Exactly.
I'll see you later. But no, at the end of the day, Erik Ten Hag in or out. Make sure you get your comments in down below because I see you've got a few people watching. Whatever you are, Ten Hag in or out, that's what this fan debate show is all about. So obviously, for someone like myself who backs Erik Ten Hag, I think United and Sir Jim Ratcliffe can do this in a very intelligent way because, Ben, we were speaking before the show, Ten Hag's contract's up at the end of next season anyway.
Next season,
so do you think that it's wise for Sir Jim Ratcliffe just to back Ten Hag and just let him see out his contract, because then he's not having to pay Ten Hag money for sacking him and bringing in someone new and stuff? And then it's also 3 years of Ten Hag, and then if Ratcliffe, after his year appointment of being, you know, shareholder at Man United and stuff, maybe that's when he could then be like, right, okay, this with Ten Hag needs to come to an end. I'm going to get my person in, blah, 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 blah. But for me, I think it's the correct decision to keep Ten Hag in, not only because I back him and the injury crisis has been absolutely berserk this season, but also I can see what Ten Hag wants to do with this team. He just can't do with the players that he's got available, which is the most frustrating part. Then you've got fans like, Ten Hag out, you know, he's crap, there's no philosophy, there's no style of football. Piss off is what I say to that, to be honest. But Ben, what are your thoughts on this genuinely? Because that's why we've got you on tonight. You know, you're a massive Erik Ten Hag in advocator. So actually explain your feelings towards Ten Hag and what he brings to Manchester United, in your opinion.
Genuinely, one of the things that I find weird about this whole topic of conversation is people will talk about, they'll have this list of everything they want the next manager to do and to be. And if you look at it, if you were to look at that full criteria, you're literally summing up Ten Hag before he joined Man United. So you want someone that's going to play expansive football. You want someone that's going to press from the front. You want someone that's going to be youth-oriented. You want someone that understands everything about the game. And you want someone that's going to be able to adapt to certain situations. You're literally describing Ten Hag and everything we said before he came in. So it's not that he's automatically become a bad manager. It's that he's struggling in a really bad system. And people speak about all the different transfer situations and everything about that. The struggle is, I don't really blame him too much when it comes to transfer situations. Of course, there's players that we shouldn't have gone for, or there's players that we've paid far too much on. But end of the day, you had with Liverpool, you had Klopp as soon as he came in, he wanted Julian Brandt. Edwards basically said, no, he's not going to work as well here. We're going to get you Mo Salah instead. Ten Hag is being asked to basically bring in players that he wants to bring in. And in that situation, he's not got a massive scouting network. He's going to bring in people that he knows about. He's going to bring in people that are known quantities to him. And it's difficult to judge someone in their struggles when they haven't got the full picture to them. So I'm not going to blame him for certain transfer situations. And when it comes to his tactics, they have been a bit off this season, but he just hasn't got the people that he needs to implement the style that he wants to do. He does want to play expansive front foot football. And we've seen that because we've seen him want to press in the front. We've seen certain situations like that. The struggles is the spacings between certain areas. And that comes from personnel not being able to step up. Like we've seen it with our backline constantly sitting deep. That's because we're playing backlines of Lindelof and Martinez and Maguire, and it's changing every single week. And even when it isn't changing, it's usually someone like a Maguire or a Lindelof or an Amrabat who just haven't got that pace to play in that high line. They haven't got that athleticism to get back again. So whilst I do appreciate there are certain situations that he should be doing better in, there are lots of mitigating factors behind the reasons he is struggling.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Ben. Obviously, we'll read out a few comments here. We've got Gun Down now, which I'm going to assume is an Arsenal fan. This is actually going to be quite interesting because for an Arsenal fan, if you are still watching, by the way, just let me know in the comments down below. What were your thoughts on Arteta when he first joined Arsenal? Because obviously now you guys are title challengers with Arteta. You're in a very intense title race this season with Liverpool and Man City. So let's read what he says here. He says, his tactics are in depth. You do not make top four, bin him, you're Manchester United for crying out loud. I understand what you're talking about, mate, there. And obviously, Ben, if you want to jump in as well, obviously, feel free. But at the end of the day, Manchester United, yes, as a name, we carry a lot of weight.
We're not like Man United anymore.
Exactly, that name. We're a sleeping giant, for God's sake. Obviously, with Manchester United, yes, we are still probably one of the biggest clubs in England. But as well, at the end of the day, it's such a fall from grace. That's the best way to put it. We're in probably, it's not even over a decade now. We're over a decade in poor management on and off the field. And we can't just be blaming Sir Alex Ferguson anymore for leaving us in such a pile of shit, because at the end of the day, he wasn't building for anything. He wasn't going to stay. So David Moyes, and then from David Moyes onwards, it's just been a roller coaster of emotions. Yes, we've had our decent moments. We've had our derby wins. We've had trophies, but it's not the success that we had under Sir Alex. And what really frustrates me, Ben, I don't know if this is how you feel as well, but it's more the older generation of United fans who are privileged and spoilt, and they're the ones who are carrying this Erik Ten Hag out agenda. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a mix. So you have the people that will appreciate that there are struggles, and you have like the older generation, like you mentioned there, who are used to United winning things. But you also have the certain generation similar to our age, where they would have heard all these stories about winning things and just assume it happened overnight. It never did. You don't build a long-term, successful, sustainable title charge or club without struggling at first by building from the ground up. It's certain things with United where we just haven't planned for the future ever, really. Every time we go to do something new, it's fixing the frailties of what happened previously. So even with our managerial situations, we've gone, okay, Fergie wanted us to get Moyes, so we'll get Moyes. Moyes came in and we thought, you know what, he's not tactical enough. He doesn't quite understand certain nuances of being a big club or being successful. So we'll bring in Louis van Gaal, who we'll look at, and he's been successful in the past. He's very, very tactically minded. And then we've gone, but he doesn't know what to do in the Premier League. So we bring in Mourinho, who we go look at him and we go, he's very successful. Everywhere he goes to, he wins the league. But he's fallen out of everyone. So we get rid of him. And then we go, so we need someone who's now going to make everyone happy again. So we'll bring in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So literally every single thing we do is to fix the mistakes we've made in the past instead of just not making them. We aren't planning for the future. We're planning not to fail the same way we did last time. And by doing that, we're making the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah, because like you just said there, like we'll bring in someone new to replace the previous mistake, but then that new guy will then make a bigger mistake, and then it carries on. And it's like what they're Gun Down there said, that we're in the same hamster wheel. We've been in the same hamster wheel for the last decade. And to my knowledge, hamsters only live for 2 years. So how the fuck we've been doing this for so long, I don't know, to be honest. But MUFC Realist TV, Mick, thank you for joining me this evening, Sensei. Thank you very much, Mr. Mick Jagger, as I like to call him. But it said Sir Alex drove us to pole position and left the keys to the Glazers to crash the car. That is probably the best analogy I've heard to describe this situation when it comes to the ownership. You know, Sir Alex, like I said, how he won that league in his final season with that pile of shit, no one could replicate. Maybe that's because, you know, it was such a, like, not enough teams were challenging for the league, and United got to somehow scrape that final win. But at the end of the day, yeah, Mick, you're spot on there. The Glazers have clearly crashed the car. It's not just crashed, you haven't just lost the front wing of the car or something. It's completely totaled. You've smashed it to the wall like you're Paul Walker. But at the end of the day, Simon Davis as well says he inherited the crock of shit. I've given him time, in my opinion, plus full backing, not players to sell the shirts, go for kids at bargain prices and box clever. You know what? You're not wrong there. I mean, I've debated now that United kind of need an established starting 11 because with injuries, our squad this season has been all over the place. You know, we have had so many different styles of squads, and Erik Ten Hag can't play his philosophy, you could say, or his style, as we like to put it. But Ben, you're obviously you've a keen eye, should we say, when it comes to Ten Hag's tactics. Like, what would you say is the Erik Ten Hag way?
Well, he wants to be front-footed from the off, so he will want to press high up. We've seen certain situations like that where we've got the two number 8s that will sit high. You've got your wingers that will sit on their fullbacks, and then you have the midfield pivots, and the number 6 will stand basically about halfway into their half. His struggles there is the Premier League is far more transitional and far more athletic than it was in the Dutch league. So teams do get broken on far quicker than they would have done there. And from that, then he wants athletic, quick centre-backs, as we've seen with Martinez, who is even though he is small, as everyone likes to point out, he's still very strong, very athletic. He's got good recovery. We wanted Kim Min-jae in summer. He sums it up to a T. We wanted Pavard, who's not quite as much, but he has got a keen eye for a progressive pass. Ten Hag wants to build up from the back. People do look at him because of the fact that he's Dutch and he went through Ajax, that he's of this Cruyff style. Whilst he does take certain inspirations from it, he focuses more off the ball. He likes to just work on different space manipulation, things like that. He's far more focused on off the ball rather than on the ball. And then he does let a little bit of creativity and players express themselves at times on it. Whilst he does have certain patterns he does like to play, where you'll see the fullbacks will come inside and they'll add into midfield, and then they'll create certain overloads at times, or you have your 8s will split and help your winger just to create different overloads in that certain areas. We just haven't got the personnel to do it, and we have got the personnel to do it, but we haven't got them available. So we saw different patterns that he wanted to play when he brought in Mason Mount, for example, who has gone down as a pretty poor transfer. For this season, at least, he will come good, I reckon. But it seems like a waste for the fact that he's been unavailable for 80% of the season. But when you look at, so you've got Onana, who wants to build up as well, and you'll have Martinez. One pattern that I thought we'd see quite a lot that we haven't been able to see was Martinez taking off of Onana, who Mount would find a pocket of space, take it, and he's known for his quick distribution and being very good in the half turn. Ten Hag wants to play a transitional style because he is able to adapt to certain situations. He wasn't this proper tactical, fluid, just pass it out from the back manager when he was at Go Ahead Eagles. He did to some extent, but he came into Ajax and said, I want to play the Ajax style of football. And I've gone to Manchester United and he wants to do a blend of Manchester United style of football and his style of football. So he does want to play a bit transitional. He wants to expose certain spaces on the pitch. And that does require a certain level of intelligence from his players. And we just haven't got that right now. We've got players who they can function under certain systems if they're very good at thinking on their feet and just doing things if they have to do it, but they're not very good at recognizing certain nuances of the game. If you watch, for example, look at our matches, watch how often our players will scan or look around themselves to get a full picture of the game. There's someone who does a breakdown on Twitter of how often like a midfielder would scan. And you see the best ones will do it hundreds of times a game. Rodri is very good for it.
Yeah.
We just haven't got that certain level of intelligence in our team, and we just haven't got the players that are capable of playing what he wants to do.
Yeah, I agree with you there, mate. I mean, obviously, I'll go back to gun down here saying factually incorrect. Liverpool took 3 years to win the Champions League under Klopp. You don't need a sustained process to be competitive again. It didn't take Xabi Alonso to eventually win the Bundesliga. I mean, I see your point. But at the end of the day, are you one of them fans who thinks Postecoglou is better than Ten Hag because he's got Spurs playing a very exciting brand of football? But considering they're out of the FA Cup, they're out of the Carabao Cup as well. They're also not been in Europe all season, so they've been able to focus on all domestic competitions. And as well with Postecoglou, he's liked by the media because he just reminds you of a typical bloke. You know, someone you'd meet down the pub. He's a very just typical bloke really who just loves football, and you could say Spurs he's a perfect he's a perfect manager for Spurs maybe. But
yeah, they're a hipster club that everyone wants to praise whenever they can.
So with Ten Hag, are we just forgetting about what he did in his first season? Third place, as well for the City and Arsenal, like head to head all season, getting third place, winning the Carabao Cup, getting to an FA Cup final, finishing the quarterfinals of the Europa League. Is that all going to be excluded because United have had a massive injury crisis this season? We've fallen off this season. Does that just get forgotten about now? For me, it doesn't, and that's why I know when Ten Hag has his full squad available, we are a very good team. We are probably one of the top 4 best teams in England. You probably are up there with Liverpool, Arsenal and City, and we can beat them on our day. We've seen it at Old Trafford when United beat the likes of Arsenal with Antony scoring in his debut last season, winning 2-1 against City at Old Trafford, and the same with beating Liverpool 2-1 at Old Trafford last season. We can beat these teams. I mean, look at Aston Villa. They've perfectly pounced this season. They've seen Spurs, they've seen United, they've seen Chelsea all drop off, and they've pounced under a very underrated manager in Unai Emery, and they're in top 4 right now. And United could have accumulated more points this season, but due to our injury crisis and not having a deep enough squad and squad depth, that's why United have fallen behind this season. I think if Ten Hag can get the FA Cup, that'll be all will be forgotten. I think that there'll be so much positivity in the fan base, and I think that'll be enough to keep his job. But even if we don't win the FA Cup and we finish maybe 6th or 5th, and we can maybe push for that Champions League spot, it's obviously all up in the air about if a 5th English team finishes in the Champions League this season. But if we could get 5th place and maybe get Champions League football, I think he'd also be safe. But I think top 4, official, is kind of out the waters. But what are your thoughts, Ben?
Yeah, we have seen various reports on Ineos wanting to come in and make changes. We have also seen reports that they haven't looked at results in terms of the definitive factor as to whether Ten Hag will stay or go. So you can look at that in various situations where you can go, they don't care how we finish into the season. Whether it's good or bad, he will go. Or you can look at it as, you know what, they back him, he's their guy, doesn't matter how he ends the season. They're going to say, it wasn't your fault, you can stay. We don't really know what's happening with Ineos. They have been very tight-lipped in certain situations. I mean, we heard about Barada hours before he was announced by the club. If you look on Twitter, there used to be lineup leaks 2 hours for kickoff. You can't see them anymore. It's very, very rare. They are keeping a much tighter ship, and there's very few things that are actually coming out. So I do take a lot of what is said with a pinch of salt when it comes to speaking on his future. We will never actually truly know until the end of the season. I do feel similar to you that they will let his contract run down, which means end of next season, because we have got so much changing at the club right now. It just isn't sustainable to do all of those changes in one go and hope for success next season as well. I think that we will give him next season, see if he can do things with more resources, similar to how he functioned under Ajax. And I think that he will be given next season. And I think that we probably should get 5th this season. People speaking on Postecoglou, Tottenham, Villa, all that lot. We're still only 3 points behind Tottenham. They have to play a really tough end to season, as do we. But most of our games are at home, and where we have struggled at times at home much more this season, it's still a place where you can go in pretty much any game and say we have to win.
Yeah.
something that we should do well.
Because every single game is practically a cup final at this point, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
literally the way we've got to see it. But Ben, I'll let you take away this because I find this comment really funny. Gun Down obviously says, "Come on, injuries. Every team has dealt with injuries this season." I mean, yes, they have, because obviously I think this is obviously the post effect of the mid-season World Cup from last season. I think that's really affected the majority of injuries this season. Obviously, we've had injuries all over Europe this season. But Ben, do you know the exact stat of how many players United have had injured at some point in time? Because I know the number. I don't know if you do.
I mean, I do know that this season, only Bruno, Garnacho, and Dallo, the only 3 players that haven't been injured at some point.
Yes.
And I think we've had 48 different injuries.
No, it's 43 on separate occasions. 43 separate injuries from different players. I mean, if that doesn't say it all, it doesn't matter whether they're out for just one game or if they're out for 10 games. At the end of the day, players have not been available enough. And, you know, again, this season as well, Erik Ten Hag brought in the likes of Andre Onana, Rasmus Højlund, and what's he called? Mason Mount. That's it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, where's Mason Mount been all season? He's practically been in the hospital bed. Andre Onana has been very inconsistent. I mean, the amount of pressure he's had to be under to replace David De Gea, which is arguably a club legend. Then Rasmus Højlund, yes, he's started to find his form, but he gets injured practically every 10 weeks, which is very frustrating. I mean, I'm concerned about Rasmus Højlund with his injury record, but, you know, it seems to happen quite a lot where...
Weirdly, it's not as bad as you'd think.
Yeah,
I've been looking into it. I think he's available for 79% of our matches this season.
Yeah, but again, it's for 21-year-old who just turned 21-year-old. It's not a good look. I really can't be doing with another Martial because we've had enough Poppadoms, and you know, But at the end of the day, I'm concerned about Rasmus Højlund. We definitely need a new striker in the summer, but how do you... I mean, I back Rasmus Højlund. I think he's a very clinical striker, and especially with that form he's gained. I mean, he's just won February Player of the Month for the Premier League. If that doesn't say it all, I don't know what does. But, you know, at the end of the day, I feel like that signings are now really... But they're determined on the manager. You know, these are your players' signings. The manager decides these signings. So it's on the manager if these players don't work out. There's a certain player as well that we've talked about, obviously, off camera, and that is Antony. Now, I'm done with Antony. I don't think he's good enough. But there's something you see in him, and what is that exactly? Because for me, I don't think he has enough directness. I don't think he's quick enough for the Premier League. But what is it that you see him in Antony?
I mean, what I see in him is fading more and more every game. But I watched a lot of him at Ajax, and he is the type of player who we've said it a lot of times with different managers, similar to Sancho, where he's a system player. If you're functioning at 90%, he will take you to that 100%. But if you're functioning at less than that, he will take away from your team. So there's certain situations where he should be playing when it comes to if you want to control the ball, if you want as much possession as possible. But then, as you said, he does lack a lot of directness. He doesn't quite have the confidence at the moment to beat his man. But he is very good when it comes to ball retention. A lot of people don't like that because we're used to our wingers being these players that want to take everyone on. Like we see in Garnacho, everyone praising him constantly, as they should do, for taking on his man, having that bit of creativity just to show a bit of fight and directness, just to try and create something. I refer to Antony as a 1 step back, 2 step forwards player. So he will do an action that makes it so that you do have to slow down a bit, but he will then do something that speeds the game up very quickly. We saw it at times, was it Forest where he played recently, where he would hang wide, he would slow the game down, and then all of a sudden, bang, he played a ball into McTominay, and we're in 2v2. He does that fairly often, where if he has runners off of him, he's good at spotting them. But right now, all he is a 1 step back and then no steps forward player, because we just haven't quite got the system that utilizes him. We are fairly individualistic when it comes to our build-up, and for players like that, it's very detrimental to him. And I think that right now it isn't working. I can't say it will work, but I can see how it would. It just depends on if we get to that position, and I'm not sure at this point in time.
Yeah, I see your point because for one thing that I'm screaming at Anthony is I don't think he creates enough. Obviously, you say that he'll make a pass to someone like McTominay or somebody who's crashing into the box, but for some reason, he reminds me of a lot of Alexis Sanchez in the way he needs to be presented with the ball because Alexis Sanchez, he couldn't come short with the ball. He had to have the ball in front of him. He had to run onto it to maybe by creating a threat when it comes to him being in front of goal. But like you said, Anthony, I feel like he as well, especially when you've got so many players, I don't think there's any chemistry in this United squad. And that's the most frustrating thing because you've got someone like Anthony who wants to make the quick pass and do a quick 1-2 to create space. You've got someone like Bruno who really slows the game down. You've got someone like Rasmus Højlund who's a pressing machine whose work rate cannot be argued whatsoever. Then you've got someone like Marcus Rashford who just jogs around, feel like letting like Ross Barkley just run around circles around him, you know. This is the confusing part. I don't think that it's players not wanting to work for Ten Hag. I just don't think that's the players, like you could say, strengths really. And realistically, if Ten Hag gives you an instruction, you better deliver. That's my motto with it anyway. But let's have a look. Gundown says I could probably list 10 players that you need to sell. Mate, I could list 20.
Double that.
So double it. Like at the end of the day, this is the issue, you know. This is also an argument I want to make to the audience who's actually watching, and actually hope that some people who've listened tonight will actually see us and will actually maybe change their mind about Erik Ten Hag, because the injury crisis has been absolutely disgusting. But it's also the fact that I'd rather see United back a manager and actually start selling some players, because there's players that have been here probably 3 or 4 managers ago that are still letting down today's current manager. And, you know, let the manager have his own squad. And I understand it's easier said than done because the high wages that United players are on, it's practically impossible to sell players because of the high wages. Teams won't want to offer you 10 to 15 million for a player who's on 150 to 200 grand a week when they only deserve 50 grand a week. That's the frustrating part of this. And how do United actually like progress, do you think, Ben, when it comes to the squad and selling certain players?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. We just need to stop giving out stupid contracts. It all started with Alexis Sanchez, like you mentioned a minute ago of Anthony, but it did start with him when he came in because it was technically a free transfer because it was a swap deal.
Fuck you, Louis. Fuck you, Louis. No,
because he was free.
Louis, my colleague at work, he's an absolute cunt. That's what I have to say to you, mate. But no, carry on, Ben. Sorry about that.
Because it was effectively a free transfer, we looked at it and gone, okay, the money we would have spent on him, we can give it to him in wages. And it's, again, as we mentioned earlier, it's that lack of forward thinking in the future. Because he's asked for 300k a week, everyone else wants more money to reflect their performance compared to his. And it becomes a bloated contract situation with every single player we have. And as you said a minute ago, people won't want to spend big transfer fees on a player who wants ridiculous contracts. And it's down to a lot of the time with the players refusing to cut their wages any shorter because they feel like they deserve it because they got given it in the first place. And a lot of the time players won't want to leave a club like Manchester United because it's a dream move for a lot of people unless they're going to be presented with a more favourable deal for themselves. And because of our contract situation, that's just never going to happen. People are going to have to take pay cuts to leave. And because of that situation, they're never going to leave, which is why you see it so often. We'll lose 6, 7, 8 players per summer for free because we couldn't sell them. And we didn't find any need for them in our squad. We couldn't convince them to get a new contract because it would have had to meant lowering their deal, and they don't want to do that. If they're going to play for Manchester United, if they're going to get pulled away from us, it's going to be for a more favourable deal, and that just isn't possible unless it's like a Real Madrid or Barcelona. And those type of teams aren't going to come in for the players we want to get rid of, because if we want to get rid of them, they can't be any good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day as well, I mean, you think back to the obviously players taking deductions in wages and stuff. Harry Maguire, I mean, this summer, you know, obviously that was only a rumour, but he apparently didn't want to go to West Ham
We have to
because
pay him to leave.
because we had to, what was it, like 10 million or something would have lost in his contract, and he said that
Yeah.
he'd rather stay. And I mean, thank God he did stay, by the way, because he's arguably one of our best centre backs this season, especially
Yeah.
with someone like Martinez being out injured. But obviously, like we said throughout the video, I'm Erik Ten Hag IN. Ben is also in Erik Ten Hag IN. But let us know in the comments down below, are you Ten Hag in or out? Because I see quite a few people trying to argue the case. I mean, Simon Davis there saying that Ten Hag is definitely one for the future. I mean, at the end of the day, for me, like we've said, even if Ten Hag isn't the man to win United the title or the Champions League, let's at least see what he's got, at least for the remainder of his contract, which ends in 2025 in the summer. So I just think let's just see it, because the amount of sackings as well the club have had to do and pay out so many managers. I mean, what was it we had to pay Mourinho? Was it like 7 million, whatever it was? It was
It's more than
absolutely.
that.
Well, there you go then. So, the amount of money we've had to pay out in managers is probably an actual transfer for a certain player. We probably paid out nearly 30 million in sackings when it comes to certain managers. And if Sir Jim Ratcliffe is his businessman that he claims to be, he would be sticking with Ten Hag. Let him see out his contract, and let's see if he actually earns his contract. They do it in Formula One all the time. I know it's a completely different sport, but they run out their contracts and they're driving for that seat to race for a team. And that's what I think Ten Hag needs to do, earn your contract. And, I just feel like that with United, especially negotiations, were terrible with him. And I'm hoping that with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, that's why I was dead leaning on him in January, because it was clear we needed signings in January, whether it was loan spells or just a little signing to steady the patch. But I said, you know what? I can see that he wants to bring in the right people. Dan Ashworth, obviously Omar Barreda, and other like people in the, like, I don't even know what departments they're called. There's so many that I didn't even know existed. But at the end of the day, I'd rather see us actually become a proper football club again. There might be something introduced where there's like a wage limit where we don't buy a player and they don't have over £200,000 a week in wages or something like that. Kind of like what Liverpool do, have a wage cap or something like that.
Yeah.
But we're all here talking about the possible future, but we forget there's only 24 hours in a day. Summer is still a few months off. We've still got a lot of games to play. We're still in a like competition for a trophy in the FA Cup. Yes, it's against Liverpool, but I personally think, because there's also rumours that Rasmus Højlund is available this weekend for Everton, whether he's coming off the bench or whether he's going to start, I think he'll come off the bench. But at the end of the day, having someone like Rasmus Højlund back, who was expected to be back at the end of March, that's a massive positive in my opinion. So I just want to see Ten Hag backed. And I'm not going to sit here saying that I think that Sir Jim Ratcliffe will keep him till the end of next season, till his contract expires, because I can't predict the future. Otherwise, I'll be winning the lottery every single week. But at the end of the day, Ben, I really appreciate you coming on this evening. Thank you for everyone in the comments. But do you have a final message for the people who've watched tonight about Ten Hag? Would you like to say any last words?
Just stick with him. We've seen so many different managers, different calibers come through this club, and they've all left. And they've all gone and had the same issues before they've left. We've all looked at them and gone, they don't know what they're doing. They're tactically inept. They're falling out of players. This happens at every single manager we have. At some point, you have to realize that the manager isn't the issue. And as soon as we do that, and as soon as we back a manager and we actually give them the structure that they need to flourish, as we've seen with all those you mentioned a second ago, like Barada and Ashworth, they're coming in. And there's also positions that are even being created behind the scenes because we just haven't been functioning as a team. We're bringing in certain people that are best in class at their certain roles, and they're coming into a team where we actually haven't even got that role in the first place. We're basically a modern team that's playing off of past structures. It's just not sustainable. And once that becomes sustainable, and once we actually look at it and go, you know what, Ten Hag is the issue. He isn't the issue. It's you strengthen your team by improving your weak link, and he isn't that. Basically, once we look at it and we go, you know what, everything else is massively improved, everyone is perfect, and Ten Hag is an issue, then fine, okay, pull the plug. But that we're far from that being the case. And as we mentioned a minute ago, we could sell 20, 25 players and it wouldn't make much difference. every single manager is going to have the same issue he's had here. And as soon as we find out who the issues are and we move them on and we get in people that actually suit the roles at this club, then we can start looking at certain futures different other people.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't say it any better myself. That's pretty much took us 35 minutes just to say that, to be honest. But no, at the end of the day, thank you, Ben, for joining me this evening. Thank you, everyone, for in the comments as well. Obviously, Ben, you're always welcome as always. And for anyone else who's watched this evening, we're always looking for fans to have their say on Red Devils TV. That's why we call ourselves the realest channel on YouTube. It's not scripted. Doesn't matter how many followers you have. It's all about sharing your opinion, and that's what Red Devils TV is all about. So I really appreciate it, and you can also make friends like I have done with Ben. Like, obviously, I consider Ben a friend. We talk on and off, even though he lives down south and I live in Manchester. It doesn't matter. This is the good part of the internet, let's say, and the good part of Twitter.
Not London, for anyone says, by the way. I'm not that part of South. I'm the other part.
The nice part. But anyway, but no, I appreciate everyone who's watched this evening. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. We've also, as well, coming Sunday, we've got a United career mode. EFC 24 or FIFA, whatever you want to call it. Something new. I'm shite at FIFA, but let's give it a go and let's see that. We'll play as Ten Hag as well. But anyway, that'll come out. More information will come out throughout the week. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.
See ya.